Let's break down Sam Darnold, what we see when we study his game. I'll give you the floor first.
Athletic gunslinger, a guy who you've talked about being fearless, courageous. He's clutch. He can make plays in the pocket, outside the pocket. He's a big game performer. He's a blue-collar player. He is someone that strikes me as the epitome of a franchise quarterback at the next level.
Yeah, I just think the toughness at the quarterback position is so undervalued. I think it's a huge component there. And he has not only the physical toughness to stand in there and take hits, but he has that mental toughness to be able to be able to come back from a poor series, a poor throw. He has that ability to be able to shut that down and move forward. So his toughness to me is one of the things I love. The interceptions doesn't even really bother me as much, but the fumbles inside the pocket, I do think, just keeping your offhand on the ball will help him in that area. But it's always something he needs to focus on and concentrate on. We'll have a chance to visit with Trent DILFER a little later on in the episode and get his thoughts on that and if that can be corrected. So a lot of ground to cover on the Sam Darnold 360. Let's not wait any longer. Let's jump right in here. This first interview was with JAIME ORTIZ, the head coach at San Clemente High School, Sam Darnold's high school coach.
When Sam was a freshman, he was our freshman quarterback, did a great job leading that team. And then his sophomore year, we had Sam was a sophomore. We had a senior. It was kind of the heir apparent. And early on, we made the decision that Sam was such a great athlete that at that point in time, we needed him on both sides of the ball. And so Sam was a starting outside linebacker. He was also a starting wide receiver. And as that year went on, our quarterback ended up getting hurt, and Sam jumped in week 9 of the season, did a great job leading us to a victory in the last 40 seconds of a game, and after that, the rest is history, where Sam went on to do some great things, and he definitely made his presence known on our campus and in our area as well.
Coach, obviously, you've been around him the most. Why should Sam be the number 1 pick in the draft?
I just think he has the tangibles on and off the field to lead a program. As a starter at USC, he was 20-4. At San Clemente, he was 15-4. And I think he's the type of player that, at the top of the board, he's a guy that's going to change that any NFL franchise around.
That's a great conversation there with Coach ORTIZ. Let's go from high school to college. Here's our visit with Clay HELTON.
I think anytime you have that quarterback position, you look at the intangibles, because the quarterback position is supposed to lift up the entire organization. I've never seen a great quarterback on a bad football team. I mean, they lift everybody else up, and that's what Sam does. I mean, when he walks into the building, he shows you what it's like to be a pro. With his work ethic, him trying to be a student of the game, him a master of his craft, just the way he handles himself on and off the field, how he's so integrated in the team success over any individual success. I mean, he's the model of what you want at the position. Not necessarily from a talent standpoint. Everybody knows he's talented, but from all the little intangible things that come with the leadership qualities that you have to have at the quarterback position, especially like a place at SC, that everybody in the world's watching you.
One of the people we're going to talk to here is maybe not as big of a fan of Sam Darnold as Coach HELTON. That's because he had to go up against him twice over the last 2 years. Coach MORA got a chance to catch up with him and ask him about his adversary across town, Sam Darnold.
A couple of years ago, it was in the Rose Bowl, and you're seeing this young man that has the tremendous ability to keep a play alive. And there were so many times, and it was a close game for a while, and there were so many times that we felt like we had him. We have him corralled, and all of a sudden he slips out and he makes a throw down the field for a first down, or it's 3rd and 4 and you're playing man coverage and you're locking them up and you're in pretty good shape and you feel like the rush is about to get there, then he goes for 5 yards and they move the sticks. And I can remember just being terribly frustrated during that game.
Anybody that he reminds you of over the years from a playmaking standpoint or stylistically? I've thrown out the Tony Romo comparison as who he reminds me of. He's kind of built like Tony.
I can see
has some of that kind of Romo magic when the play breaks down.
I can see that. I can see a little Brett Favre without the heat on the ball. Mm-hmm. His ability to kind of improvise. But I do like the Tony Romo comparison. But I think he's unique. He's a very serious young man. I've gotten to spend some time with him, and I'm very impressed with him and his character.
Yeah, you can even tell just talking to Coach Moore there. I think he likes Sam Darnold a lot. I don't think he liked playing against him, Buck.
No, it's a challenge. He talked about how challenging he is to defend because the guy can make plays not only on schedule but off schedule.
All right, I called this next guest the caretaker of quarterbacks. Trent DILFER has been running the Elite 11 show for a while now. You work with him, Buck. He's got unique insight into these quarterbacks and had some real fascinating things to say about Sam Darnold.
The first tape I ever saw on Sam wasn't football tape. It was high school basketball tape. It's not like I was watching Michael Jordan play. Mm-hmm. But for what my eye was looking for, the natural body movement, the body control, the competitiveness, the sacrifice for his team, he covered the point, he covered the post, he dribbled crossover step back, he took it to the hole, he dished, he ran the floor. He truly was everything you're looking for as a competitor as well as an athlete. And I said, hey, if this kid can throw it at all, and if he's coachable, then this is what we're looking for. And as we went through the spring and ended up trying out in May in Oakland, it was obvious after about 5 balls that he threw that this was going to be a special prospect. Because remember, you're looking for kids. The kids that have high ceilings are the ones that haven't been overtrained at 16, 17 years old. So you can kind of get a feel for their raw traits. But also you could say, wow, there's a great piece of clay, and if you could mold this kid the right way, the ceiling is exponentially high, and he grew every rep. And I still see the growth that's there. Like, he hasn't even come close to tapping into his potential. That's why I really believe he's kind of I've used this term, a transcendent type talent.
Well, there you have it, Buck. Really good stuff there from Trent Dilfer. And look, we could talk to him for hours and hours and hours just about the fundamentals of the game, but he's got a front row seat for these quarterbacks at a very young age and has great insight.
Does a great job. Does a great job of working with young quarterbacks and really filling them with the right stuff.
In that interview there, Trent Dilfer did mention JP. That's Jordan Palmer, who spent a lot of time training Sam Darnold, not only for the Combine, even prior to that, and last offseason spent some time working with him, really took him under his wing, and a great person to talk to about the USC quarterback.
I haven't seen a guy, or I've seen guys like Deshaun maybe last year, where these teammates, when I go, hey, what do you think of Sam? And they need to pause and they go, listen, this is my guy. This is a guy who can rally a locker room. And he's 20, so that's going to be important. You know, he's a young dude. And that's going to be important. And this is going to be a guy over the next 5 years who is a highlight reel because he's so good off schedule. He's so accurate. He's so consistent off schedule, moving around, buying time in the pocket. Dude ran a 4.8, and he doesn't run a 4.8 on tape in the pocket. And this is going to be a guy who's just in those moments. We saw it in the Rose Bowl. We saw it in the big games, even Texas coming back at the end. He's just going to be one of those guys. I think his reputation, and we're recording this, so it's perfect. His reputation is going to be that big moment, that big game guy where he always comes through. And he's going to do it in a way where he's just going to be an easy guy to be a fan of.
Jordan Palmer, JP, some great insight there on Sam Darnold. And if you haven't listened to the Josh Allen 360, he had some great things to say on Josh Allen. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to our conversation with the man himself. Here's our chat with Sam Darnold.
One of the things your coach talks about is how you inspire your teammates. You give them hope. You kind of bring an optimistic view to the team, particularly in clutch moments. Where does that confidence come from when the game is on the line and you have the ball in your hands that you can lead your team for a score to win a game?
I honestly believe that, ever since I kind of grew up playing football and basketball, baseball, all these sports, and even playing in the backyard with my friends, and no matter what the score was, I always wanted to score touchdowns and drive the ball down the field, and that kind of carried on to my collegiate career, and I think it's definitely going to carry on to the NFL. No matter what situation you're in, you can't make excuses for yourself. You got to just go out there and continue to play the game that you love. And I think for me, it's about respecting the game.
Well, Buck, there's nothing better than getting the man himself on here, Sam Darnold, to hear from him directly. Let's get to a couple fits here. Where do you think? I think Sam Darnold is one of those guys you can plug him in a lot of different places. Cleveland, to me, is the best fit. They got the first pick. To me, it makes the most sense. I think he's the right guy for them. But outside of Cleveland, is there another team you think would be a great fit for Sam?
I think he's one of the rare quarterbacks that can go anywhere. And I think the reason he can play anywhere is because his personality lends itself to be a fit in the locker room. His athleticism, his arm talent, and all those things, look, he checks off all the boxes. But more importantly, the intangibles are right.